Welcome back to Between Mind and the World. Let me ask you something. What if death is not an ending at all? What if it is a doorway, or maybe just one branch of an infinite tree? Today, we are exploring the strange intersection where neuroscience, quantum physics, and ancient wisdom all collide to ask the same haunting question. Could consciousness be immortal? It begins with a story. In 2008, Dr. Eben Alexander, a neurosurgeon who never believed in near-death experiences, fell into a coma from a rare brain infection. His brain scans showed almost no activity. Doctors had given up hope, but while his body was lifeless, his awareness did not fade. He describes vivid, lucid experiences filled with light, sound, and a feeling of pure connection. When he woke up, he was convinced that consciousness does not die with the brain. Stories like that sound mystical, but modern physics has been hinting at something similar for decades. Think back to the double-slit experiment. You fire electrons through two small openings. When no one observes them, they behave like waves, creating an interference pattern, as if each electron went through both slits at once. But the moment they are observed, everything changes. The pattern collapses, and the electrons act like solid particles. It is as if reality itself waits for someone to look before deciding what it wants to be. That was the moment science realized the observer might not just be watching the universe, but shaping it. So what actually causes that collapse? Is it consciousness? Is it measurement? Or something deeper that we still do not understand? This is where quantum decoherence comes in. Imagine a perfect symphony where all instruments play in harmony. That harmony is a coherent quantum state. Now add noise like a stray molecule or photon bumping in, and suddenly the music falls apart. That is decoherence, the process that turns quantum possibilities into the definite world we experience. Still, some scientists wonder if consciousness itself might have a quantum side. Physicist Roger Penrose argued that our minds cannot be fully explained by standard physics. He believed consciousness might involve quantum processes that go beyond simple computation. Working with anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff, he proposed the Orch-OR theory, suggesting that quantum activity inside tiny structures in our brain called microtubules could be part of how consciousness arises. It is controversial and unproven, but it refuses to disappear, because if consciousness has quantum roots, it might be woven into the fabric of reality itself. If that is true, can consciousness be preserved? That question drives projects like Neuralink. The idea is simple but bold. If consciousness is data, if it is just patterns of neurons and streams of information, then maybe one day it can be recorded or even transferred. But the brain is not a static hard drive. It is a living, changing system. Past experiments like Robert White's head transplants failed, proving how fragile the link between mind and body really is. Even so, technology keeps advancing. We are already decoding thoughts, restoring vision, and mapping millions of neurons at once. The idea of digital immortality, of consciousness living on as information, no longer feels impossible. Now imagine zooming out to a bigger and stranger theory, the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. In 1957, physicist Hugh Everett suggested that every time a quantum event occurs, the universe does not pick one result. Instead, it splits. Every possible outcome happens in a new branch of reality. The wave never collapses. There are countless versions of you, living out every possible path. Here is where it gets wild. If consciousness always follows the branches where you survive, then from your point of view, you never die. That is the idea of quantum immortality. It does not require heaven or reincarnation, just the endless continuation of awareness in another timeline. Of course, that is theory, not proof. Many physicists call it philosophy disguised as science. And even if it were true, immortality might not be bliss. It could mean endless decline, endless awareness that never shuts off. So how does all of this connect to near-death experiences? Across cultures, people who have come close to death describe strikingly similar events. They talk about tunnels of light, life reviews, and a powerful sense of peace. Neuroscience has explanations involving oxygen loss, neurotransmitter surges, and brain disinhibition. But perhaps those states feel so transcendent because they reveal something about the nature of consciousness itself. Quantum entanglement shows that two particles separated by light years can remain connected, influencing each other instantly. Maybe that is not evidence of a soul, but it reminds us that separation might be an illusion. We can look at it from two angles. The scientific view sees consciousness as an emergent property of the brain, something that could eventually be mapped, simulated, or preserved. The philosophical view sees consciousness as fundamental, something timeless that exists beyond physical form. Neither side has the final answer, but both push us toward the same mystery. What really happens when we die? And more importantly, what exactly are we right now? If consciousness is not confined to the skull, then death might not be the end of the story. It could simply be a transition, a shift in awareness, a move to another layer of reality. Across religions, the same idea of an enduring consciousness appears in different forms. Christianity speaks of the soul living eternally in heaven or hell. In Islam, the soul continues in the afterlife, awaiting resurrection and divine judgment. Hinduism and Buddhism describe rebirth, where consciousness flows through lifetimes until it reaches liberation. Even ancient philosophies like Stoicism and Sufism saw the soul as part of a greater, unified whole. Maybe every tradition was describing the same phenomenon that science is only now beginning to measure, that consciousness does not end, it transforms. If this video made you think differently, tell me in the comments. Do you find the idea of quantum immortality comforting or terrifying? Thank you for watching Between Mind and the World. Stay curious, keep questioning, and remember, maybe somewhere in another version of the universe, you are still watching.